This is the Education Business Podcast for consultants and business owners providing services in schools. I'm Claire Riley, and I'll be sharing how to start, grow and scale your education business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Education Business Podcast. I've got a guest again today looking at lessons from being a teacher to then moving into entrepreneurship. And in this episode, I had a lovely chat with Ellie Baker. Ellie has founded two education businesses. One is Bilinguasing and the other one is the 2-Hour Tutor. So I think you're going to get a lot of insights from this conversation. So let's just get to it. Ellie, welcome to the Education Business Podcast.
Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Claire.
Do you want to just give us a story, really? Tell us a story of how you were a teacher and then how you ended up having multiple businesses. What was that journey for you? And I suppose really people want to know what the struggles were along the way, what you felt, because they want to find ways to relate to your experiences.
Great question. I love a good story. So yeah, once upon a time, I was an MFL teacher. I was secondary trained. I was actually teaching not a million miles away from where you live, your neck of the woods, Claire. I was in West Yorkshire, actually. Yes, this is like 2008. I'd been teaching MFL, Spanish and French for 4 years. Then my partner got a job down south. So we moved down south and I kind of was like, I think I need to try some different things. I tried teaching in a private school because there were lots of them near where my husband grew up. Didn't get on too well with that. I ended up in the middle school system and then I subsequently got into a little bit of primary work. And I realized that actually teaching languages to younger kids was such a joy. There was less friction from them. Their brains are so much more flexible. They found it exciting. They were open to it. Whereas once you get to 11 plus, I found it was a really difficult sell, to sell languages at that point. And the brain isn't really, it starts to close down to one language or whatever languages they've been exposed to from 7 onwards, really. So I realized that this was like the age that I wanted to teach at. So I'd been teaching 10 years. I was pregnant with my first child back in 2012. And I was like, I don't think I want to carry on. I've done 10 years in the teaching profession. I've given of myself to a huge degree. We all know as teachers how demanding it is, how much of you that takes. And I just knew something in my bones. I always knew 10 years would be my kind of limit. And it happened to coincide with the birth of my daughter. I was working in a lovely middle school at the time and the head was retiring and a new head was coming in. And I was like, I don't want to be part of this, remodeling of this lovely little school that I just, had the pure luck really to land this role within. I was head of French in a department where there was one person and that was me. I'd done all the other things. I was like, been a head of a bigger department, being a peripatetic primary teacher and all the things in between. And I was like, this is a really cushy number. I loved teaching there. There was no exam pressure. It was year 5 to year 8. I was like, I feel like it'd be so lovely. And like so many teachers really, to go out on a high. I've had so many lows and peaks and troughs in my career. And then times when I just nearly jacked it in, times where I was like really broken and disillusioned and had to peel myself off the floor. I've got all of the stories, but that will take far too long. I could write a book on that. So I won't go into all of it, but it really was like the catalyst for change for me was I'm about to become a mum. I feel like I'm done. I feel like I have had all the experiences I want. And there've been so many rich experiences that I'm grateful for, but there've been so many not so great experiences. And I couldn't foresee any further great ones because this new head was coming in with a certain reputation. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. I want to go out with some lovely memories and cherish them. And it's on to a new chapter in my life where I am in the driving seat. So I think I always had that within me. It didn't happen by accident. It really was a considered, right, I'm done here. I don't know what's ahead, but I know deep in my gut, I have what it takes to create my own reality, my own income. I'd dabbled with tutoring and stuff in the past. I'd done a bit of translation on the side and nothing really lit me up as much as the idea of teaching young kids languages. So yeah, I went on maternity leave with my daughter. I was still technically employed by the school while I was figuring this out. And I was taking her to all these different clubs and classes that were available for babies, mums and babies, parents and babies. And I was just blown away by this world. It felt like this secret world that I didn't know existed. My social life was great. My baby had an amazing social life. She was swimming, doing yoga, and she wasn't even one. And it was like, I can't believe this. Who knew? It was really fun discovering all this stuff with her. And really, I learned from being on the job as a mother. I was like, this is what mums and new parents want for their babies. They want them to be introduced to and exposed to lots of different experiences from the get-go, from newborn onwards. And there was a gap. I was like, oh, I wonder if there could be a languages thing for babies that I could plug, because there wasn't really. There were language clubs for kids. There were 0 to 5 generic kind of clubs for kids, but they weren't really tailored to baby development. And I was really getting into baby development at this stage. I trained in baby yoga just so I had a bit of an understanding of, and stuff I could do with babies who were not even mobile that would, and then the idea of bringing with languages and music kind of came to me as I was learning and observing and participating in things with my baby. So the idea for my company, Bilinguasing, was born really from that. And it being in the world of mums and babies at that time gave me a perfect platform to try and trial, a bit trial and error, get my idea together. And it just kind of took shape with me practicing with my mum friends, and a bit of yoga. The baby yoga training was really kind of pivotal to giving me confidence that I knew what I was talking about with baby development. And then, I launched a trial class in my hometown, Maidenhead, and I did one in Windsor, down the road as well. And the premise was, I called it then Baby Love Spanish, and it was love, and it was babies, and it was music and sensory play. And it was all strung together with bilingual songs that I partnered with a musician locally to create. And my sister at the time also had a new baby, and she's like, what are you doing? That sounds absolutely nuts. Like, babies can't even speak yet. She's a former teacher, but not a linguist. Well, she is now. That's another story. And she was like, let me come and see this crazy idea that my sister's got, so I can just laugh at you. And she came along, and she absolutely loved it and was like, it's genius. And everyone was, this is 2013. At the end of my trial session, these mums were getting out their checkbooks and saying, can I sign up? And I'm like, well, I'm not starting till September and it's only May. And I was like, well, yes, people were literally writing checks wanting to sign up and secure a spot. And that is when I knew I'm onto something. And then that's where it all began. And fast forward 11 years, we now have 20 franchises across the UK, and my sister is COO of the company as well. And that's it. That is my story in a nutshell. And I have never looked back. It's been a fun, crazy roller coaster of a ride. And I've loved nearly every minute of it. Not every minute, but most of it. It's been absolutely brilliant. Is that a good story, Claire? Is that all right?
That is a good story. Thank you. So it doesn't end there, though, does it?
The pandemic brought about lots of change for lots of people, right? And as we went overnight from running face-to-face classes to suddenly having to switch everything online and support all our franchisees who were in turmoil about their businesses, as were we. It was a crazy time, and everyone has their own tales to tell about that. I really had to think, dig deep and think, what can I do to financially support Bilinguasing and my franchisees through this period? Because as much as online is great, it wasn't our model really. And everyone's income kind of just fell off a cliff just overnight. And our business model as a franchisor business model really was dependent on our franchisees earning money. We took royalty payments monthly from our franchisees, and we took upfront payments for our franchises upon purchase as well, like a lump sum. And we had quite a few new franchisees in the pipeline who then were like, I'm not going to do this now. I'm not going to proceed. And I was like, I wouldn't either if I were you. I wouldn't buy a face-to-face business at the start of the pandemic. And at that point, we didn't know how long this was going to go on for. So we were quite quickly in a position where our financial situation as a core business, as a franchise business, just flipped overnight. So I had to dig deep and think, what am I going to do? This is terrifying and sad and awful. What if everyone loses their businesses and we can't get through this? As everyone, so many other people suffered that fear as well. And I had been for the last year or so doing some coaching on the side. So this really was not a big deal at the time, but through my numerous and regular conversations with MFL teachers who were exploring the possibility of buying franchise, I became more and more aware of how things were changing in schools and becoming even more difficult, the challenges that teachers were facing, and also the really sad state of affairs when it came to teachers' mental health and well-being. And it just was, I knew it. I mean, I've seen it, I've been there, but to hear that nothing's improving, to hear people say it's like even worse since you left, Ellie. Now it's this, now we've got this pressure and that pressure, it still breaks my heart. And I found myself sort of coaching people and supporting people. And not every MFL teacher I spoke to was a great fit for the franchise, but they had other ideas, and I'd just, offered to coach them through their ideas for bringing their language idea, their tuition business, quite often it would be, to fruition. So I was doing that on a one-to-one basis. It was very much like a side hustle to Bilinguasing up until that point. So when I had to come up with a way to sustain Bilinguasing through this period, I had to lean into the coaching more. So I did some extra training in coaching. I did some extra training in marketing, online business marketing, because up until then, my business ownership experience had been a face-to-face model primarily. And from that sort of training that I received, I built my new coaching business, which is called the 2-Hour Tutor. So it took all of my knowledge of having been a tutor and delivering an online coaching service, which is in a way kind of tutoring, always teaching. I still am very much identify as a teacher, always will. That I really sort of honed my processes and my systems for how I get a teacher from idea phase to execution and launching of a business. And of course, I realized this is not just going to help language teachers. This can help all teachers. It's a process that can help any teacher with any subject knowledge that they have and turn that into a business. So it really came from that. I was doing this training program for myself for 3 months alongside supporting my franchisees through the pandemic, thinking this has got to work. I'd invest quite a lot of money in this program to educate myself in creating this coaching program and having the online marketing presence as well to be able to, reach the tutors that I wanted to reach. And it really took off because I suppose teachers were in that state of flux at home, working from home, more available to participate in online training and in a state of rethinking their future in teaching. Not everyone loved online teaching, but for some it was respite from the face-to-face reality of going into a school every single day and everything that goes with it. And I just found that once I launched my program, it resonated and people were available to get on calls with me, and it suddenly became really in demand. And I really saw that business as, hey, this could be even bigger than Bilinguasing. And today it kind of is, in a way. It's like Bilinguasing is bigger in some ways because there are more of us. And what I love about Bilinguasing is that my core business has produced all these little businesses for everybody else. They've got their own business kind of coming off that. Like I'm the mothership and they've got their own little islands that connect and feed off the center, that sort of nucleus. It's like, that's really exciting and lovely. But the coaching fulfills another passion and mission of mine, which is to support the educators to teach in a way that they know is right for them and for the kids. to allow them to step away from a system that isn't working for them and that deep down they feel is not working for the kids, and to create something from a place of love and passion and from a place of being really true to themselves and knowing who they are again. Because I think what I find with my tutor clients is they really need to peel back all those layers and go, who am I really? Who was I? What did I want when I went into teaching? And what conditioning has led me to where I am today? And how can we undo the conditioning that the education system has placed upon me, all the limiting beliefs, the lack of self-worth that I see is something that really we have to address before any kind of business plan can really take off. Because if your mindset is not going to support the outcome that you want, it's just not going to happen. So really what I provide now for tutors is, and sometimes teachers who haven't left yet, I do have some clients who are like, I'm going to leave. I know what I want to do. Can I join you? And of course that's tougher when they're in a job, but many people make that happen when they really want it enough. But what we start with is like unpicking all of the things that they have led, the belief systems that have impacted their ability to believe in themselves and trust themselves and actually be able to tune out from all of the noise that's telling them this is the way, this is the only way. And who are you to think you can start a business and you should be happy with that salary? And, and teaching's not a job, it's a vocation. You should be grateful. All of that stuff really impacts someone's earning potential in the future if you don't deal with it. So that's what I also do alongside Bilinguasing today. And both business, my sister supports me in both. My dad is also a coach and former teacher, so he's part of the mindset support for our teachers and tutors. And it's both of them are family businesses, and our values are family values, and that's what our franchisees get from us, and that's what our tutor clients get from us too. So they just seem to kind of work harmoniously alongside each other, So that's where I am today.
I completely get it, because obviously I've got Classroom Secrets and I've also got Education Business Club, because there were lots of people who were maybe a bit further on than your clients, wanting to know, like, how do I get to the next level? And so absolutely resonate with that on so many levels. At one point, in fact, for a long time, my mum worked with me and my sister as well. And obviously I'm in business with my husband, Ed. So get the whole family thing is helpful. But one of the things that I loved that you brought up was the fact that you go to the belief system first. And one of the things that we've had to do at Classroom Secrets is help teachers transition from the teaching job, particularly if they join the company straight from school into a business environment. And a lot of the time, it's these limiting beliefs that are holding us back. And we also have to address that from an employee perspective, so it doesn't hold the business back. So it's everywhere, is that?
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, it forms a really big part of our program, the 2-hour tutor. And some of the beliefs, if it might be useful to know examples of what we get. Our premise is that is we help tutors transition away from heavy one-to-one tuition and into a group tuition model. That a lot of stuff comes up. A lot of limiting beliefs come up around that. Like, the one I hear the most is parents want one-to-one, they don't want group. And I'm like, okay, so where's that coming from? It's what they're hearing from their current clients or where they get their clients from. But that isn't actually true. For example, I'm a parent, I'm a mum of 3 kids. Trying to fit in one-to-one tuition can be pretty tough. And there's like the juggling of the different times. There's potentially driving them there. And also there's a lot of studies show that one-to-one is quite intense on the child and on the teacher, and let's face it. And they get a lot more out of group interactions and a bit of breakout time as well. So there's so many things there that we can unpick about why we think that, parents want this. And then there's that assumption, well, are all parents the same? Are we all the same? So do all parents have the same belief system that one-to-one is best? Of course they don't, because there's parents. So that's one sort of example of a belief.
I also think on that one as well, it's about the purpose of it. So because we went through the pandemic, my children are probably a little bit younger than yours. My eldest had not started swimming, but she should have started swimming. So then when we were allowed to go swimming, I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll get her private lessons. Then she will learn to swim faster. And actually, the opposite happened because she was like, oh, I can't do it. And the one-to-one teacher was just like, oh, okay then. And actually, it wasn't until I stopped spending so much money, because it was just wasted money, I'm not going to lie, took her to a group class, that she actually started making progress, because she looked around and thought, hang on, these other kids my age can actually swim and I can't. And so I think sometimes it's not even about your means. It really could be about the purpose of why you want that group tuition, why you want them to be with other children.
Yeah, absolutely. You got nail on the head there. Being around peers can have such a positive impact, one-to-one. What I'm finding a lot of my clients kind of come to me with, they're like, I end up just helping them with their homework, or they don't do the stuff that I set them because they know I can just adapt to them. Whereas in the group setting, the tutor sets the pace to a point. We build in structures of support that happen in between sessions, which is often absent from one-to-one, because the tutor just doesn't physically have that kind of capacity to check in between. So they can, check in between, but they have to then get themselves to a place where they can access the lesson and be, able to keep up. There's a level of independence that they would go and watch a video that the tutors, the tutor would have a program, curriculum, and it'd be like, right, go and watch the 20-minute video, because that's going to give you the foundation for our lesson, where we're going to go deeper. So actually it's more efficient, and there's so many things there. And these beliefs can hold us back. We think, well, let's just create a business based on this portion of the market that are telling me what they want. And we're missing the point. We're missing the point that it's our job to educate the market to a point, because we're the expert in tuition, not the parent. And sometimes it's just we're talking to the wrong parents. And it's fine if they want to go somewhere else and get that one-to-one tuition. You can, when you're in a position of confidence in what you're offering, it feels good to say, I don't do that, but I've got a great person who does, and these are their contact details. And not feeling like we have to cling on to every opportunity, because sometimes we think, well, opportunity is an obligation. I can't let that client go, so I just say yes. But your future self really isn't going to thank you for that, for making that decision in that moment, because you're just filling your time with stuff that isn't going to get you to that place, slightly further down the line, because you're too busy, So these are some things that we work on. And weirdly, this is something not just in the teaching profession, but we often believe that we won't ever be able to earn more than our salary that we earn as teachers. Have you come across that, Claire? Like, we have an invisible ceiling that we impose, and we don't know it's there, but we somehow block ourselves from going above, 2,000 a month or something, because that's all or 3,000, because we think, well, that is it. That is the ceiling. Like, that we have to work on that to realize, no, there isn't one actually. As long as you build a scalable business that's sustainable, and you're not saying yes to all things and doing all, juggling all these things, and then you can absolutely scale way beyond that. It's a funny thing that as former employees, and this is something I know you talk about a lot, that transition from being receipt of a salary can sort of sabotage our earning potential in our business if we don't become aware of it, if we don't, work on where that's come from, the root of that. Or sometimes it's like, no one in my family has ever earned more than 3,000 a month. So we put this invisible ceiling on our own earning potential, and we don't know we're doing it. We're like blocking ourselves from receiving more money. And then we feel perhaps guilty about receiving more money, because all our teaching career we've been told, well, it's not, we don't do teaching for the money, which therefore makes wanting money feel dirty, wrong, greedy, and all those things, when in fact money is neutral. It's not evil. It depends on the person in possession of it and what they do with it. It doesn't carry any positive or negative charge. We just decide to put that on it. Money's just a form of energy, right? So there's a lot there. We go into a lot of detail with that before we can even start to plan that journey to becoming the 2-hour tutor,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there is so much personal development that we need to do as teachers. In fact, I actually have this whole idea for this business. I've even written podcast episodes, personal development for teachers, because I think it's so needed. But I've come to the realization that the market is just not ready for it. And it's interesting to pick up on what you said about you got to educate the market. Like that one is too much like pushing a boulder up a hill. So that one is just not something that I'm ready for now. But I do find at Education Business Club that I have to educate the market, absolutely, because everyone wants me to give them a 12-week course where they can tick it all off and go, all right, now I've got a business as an asset now. And it's not that. It's a journey. Sorry, but you're going to have to listen to lots of my podcasts and lots of my audio lessons, and you're going to have to do different courses, and you're going to have to watch it again. You're going to have to listen again. You're going to have to talk to somebody else. You're going to have to learn that in 3 years' time at a deeper level than you did this time round. And there's all of that. It's this journey. And it's just such an interesting transition. And I think really, what the theme of this episode is becoming is about the mindset needed. Like you have to do so much personal development work and so much mindset work to transition from a teacher being employed, but also in an environment where we believe that spending money on businesses is bad in education. Like you remember being in school thinking, oh, this company wants thousands of pounds. And then I've become that company. Not that I want thousands of pounds, because our subscription, isn't just selling to schools and we're not really priced that high. But still, it can be then difficult, even for employees coming into the company, working for this company that, they don't know if they agree with it deep down though.
That is just so true. The way we talk about money when we're a teacher and the beliefs we have. I mean, I don't know, everyone's personal circumstances are different, but I certainly associated my sort of money experience from being a student to pretty much going straight into a teaching career was always one of lack. There was never enough. I was always, close to the breadline, living from paycheck to paycheck. And should an emergency come in, like your car breaks down or whatever, it would be a struggle to sort that out. I'd have to put it in a credit card. So then I went through my whole 10 years of teaching pretty much in fear of an emergency, feeling there wasn't enough, feeling like I had to cut out expenses from my life, feeling like I had no idea how other people had these lifestyles which afforded them whatever they wanted. And I went live feeling resentful that I worked so bloody hard to get my teeny salary. Everyone around you is confirming those things, confirming what you believe. So 10 years, I'm hearing all of this, 10 years. And then suddenly I jump into business, having no mentor, no plan, just that deep knowing that I can make this work. Do you know what? Anyone listening who's a teacher or been a teacher, if you can do that, you can do anything. Like I truly believe teachers are like, you've just got some superpowers there. So don't underestimate kind of grit and determination that gets you out of bed and to school every day and gets you through those grueling exam months and report writing and all the banal stuff and all of the stuff that doesn't make a difference, and you get on with it. That grit and determination is not present in many human beings. And whilst there's a lot of mindset shifting to do, if you've got that within you, that ability to put one foot in front of the other every day and take yourself into a school environment and do what needs to be done and keep your head above water, you have got what it takes to learn, and really mindset work is getting to know yourself better. And it's about peeling away the layers that have been imposed on you that come from some other source and not owning that anymore, and realizing actually who you truly are underneath, and being able to choose a different way forward that's much more empowering and much more aligned to who you are. So it's really fun. It's like much more fun than school CPD. It's like CPD on the self. What's not to love about that? We're on this planet for a short time. We really are. So it would be a crying shame if we did not realize our potential, and didn't get to know ourselves fully, and allow a system to kind of dictate even how we behave and what we believe and what we receive and what we're capable of outside of it. When we start our business, we don't want to carry all that baggage into our business. We really do need to like have a little pit stop where we put all that old BS into a metaphorical rucksack and drop it off a cliff, so that we can feel light again and receive new messages about our potential and our future, and feed that into our business, not the old stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, we've had a couple of conversations before, but I don't know if you know how much I absolutely love personal development. Like, it's
Yeah,
so fun. I'm driven to listen to something or learn
yeah,
something every day. And I think it's not just about getting to know yourself. It's actually about improving the relationship with yourself, because as a teacher, we tend to believe the right things about ourselves, but beat ourselves
mm,
up all the time. And we've got to step into all sorts of things, including self-confidence. And, you know, for me, I am constantly on this journey. I think what makes it harder, is it harder? I don't know. I like to think it is. What makes it harder for a teacher to leave the classroom, start a business, grow it into a full-time job, then build it as an asset, is that to be an entrepreneur like that and build your business as an asset is hard anyway. Like, you're going to have to do personal development. You're forced into that situation. I don't know if you've had the same experiences, but I've employed probably over 250 different people along the journey, and that opens you up to a lot of
oh my
life
goodness,
experience. And it's hard to move through, and most people don't have that kind of experience. You are forced to grow as a person. So whether you started as a teacher or not, you've still got to go on that journey of personal development. But when you were a teacher, you've got all of that at the beginning before you even get to like zero because of just the indoctrination of the way things
yeah,
are. So it's just like you can't do this unless you're willing to go, okay, I am gonna change my perspective. I'm gonna change my attitude. I'm gonna take control. I'm not gonna be a
yeah,
victim. There's so many things I could list, but all of those, like, it starts with us. That's how we do it. We start inside and just do it anyway, basically.
absolutely. It's like it's an inside out job, really, isn't it? It's like you just have to upgrade your mindset. It's just not going to happen. And I suppose it's a shift from you being directed and told from, it comes from the government, through Ofsted, through SLT, through your line manager, all of that weight above you telling you this is how it needs to be done. Someone else telling you whether you're a good teacher or not from one little drop in or an inspection, and all our self-worth hanging on these things, someone else, an external force telling you whether you're good or not. I found like my whole identity and self-worth was wrapped up in how I was perceived as a teacher. And it took me a while to see how damaging that was to other aspects of my life. And now I can say I am and always will be a teacher, all but on my terms. But that's just one part of my identity. And that's one thing that plays into me being a good person and a capable person. There's so much other stuff. So yeah, we really have to start there. But it's not like you say, a tick boxy thing. I'll do the mindset work and then I'll start my business. Or, really it's like they interweave, don't they? Every time I up level my business or do something new in my business or take a leap or take on a new employee to take something on, I have to upgrade my mindset again. It's like continual upgrades.
Just on that, because you've kind of come to a question I was going to ask next. Do you ever feel like, so from my experience, I have had to grow the team quite fast at different points in the journey in a way that maybe I wasn't ready to upgrade that much, because when you grow the team from 40 to 65, for example, like you completely change the culture. Do you feel like there have been points where, because of your teaching background, you found it hard to step into what you really needed to be for your business, and that it's kind of held you back as a leader, or it's caused things that maybe you didn't realize at the time, but you look back and you can say, oh yeah, maybe that was too much of my teacher mindset still at play?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So many times. I don't think these things fully go away. They will come back and bite you on the bum repeatedly. But what I will say is that I can see it and recognize it just straight away now. I can go, oh, that's that thing. That's that old teacher belief coming back. That's all it is. I don't have to pay attention to it. I don't have to, listen anymore. So that's something I'm noticing and I'm accepting a lot more. It's like, those things will always have a presence for you, but I've learned from them that they've also been the biggest teachers. So I don't feel resentment anymore. I don't feel, I don't really feel any way about it. I don't really put any weight on it. But yeah, there are times when I've found it hard to be direct about what I want from team members, because, and part of it is
Absolutely.
being an empath. I found that direct criticism that you have in teaching so damaging and even traumatic. And I've seen that in others. I see that in teachers that I work with as well, that I don't want to inflict that pain on anyone else. There is part of me that tiptoes around people's feelings because I so don't want to cause harm in the way I feel like this profession at times caused me harm and has caused teachers harm and continues to. So there is that. And sometimes that backfires. I've had employees, repeatedly make, not churn out work that I'm like, that's not really what I wanted. And then rather than tell them, I'm like, I'll just finish it myself. And I'm like, what am I doing? And then now I'm much more, but what that's led to, that learning has led to me creating better sort of standard operational procedures that people can follow. So documenting things, doing videos of me doing something, or asking the best person in my team currently to record themselves doing something and have documenting procedures. So being much more transparent, much more detailed. So I think I used to underestimate how much detail people need in order to carry out the task correctly. And then my teacher saboteur would not correct that and think it's my fault for not being clear. And and there is an element of truth in that, but I know that I'd perhaps be, overdoing that and not being able to be direct, even when an employee might really need me to say, look, you did say you'd do this by then, still waiting for it. I find I still to this day find that hard at times, but I'm finding better ways of
Yeah.
doing that. Of my way is to think, well, how can I avoid that lack of clarity happening in the first place, so I don't have to have those conversations as much? Am I making sense? So you kind of find ways to
Yeah.
learn from it in a way that doesn't undermine who I am, which is a big empath. I don't like to have awkward conversations with people, but I also now get that it serves everybody to be open and transparent and honest as well. So balancing those things, sometimes tricky. Yeah.
Really tricky. I love that we're having this conversation, because I have
Yeah.
experienced all of those things. I would say that I've had to probably move on a little bit
Yeah.
further than that. And like, I don't enjoy having those conversations, but
Yeah.
I will. But what I found now is that we think that it's just us as entrepreneurs, but it's not. Then these issues that we experienced in the business when we were first doing it, then translate to team members, and then maybe they have those problems as well. Maybe they're an ex-teacher and they're like,
Oh,
oh, I don't want to teach somebody to suck eggs and things like that. And I definitely have conversations even now with some members of the team where I say, I need this to be different. I can't have you being offended.
yeah,
I need to be able to
yeah,
just say it. So just let me say it and let's move forward and work on it together, rather than you worrying that I'm cross that you haven't done a good job. I don't really care. I just want us to make it better.
yeah,
Let's just make it better. That's all. That's all we
yeah,
need to do.
yeah, absolutely. It's like sometimes you can have a lot of similar personalities in your business if you do attract teachers. Um, I mean, not all teachers are the same, of course, but yeah, we might all be in that position where we don't want to offend all the time. Um, and giving someone honest feedback, empathically, kindly, is not going to offend. That's just that's my inner saboteur just going on. Oh, Ellie, you don't want to upset people. Be a people pleaser. You're that comes back to bite me. But definitely when you've got other team members, you've got all of their baggage is at play as well. We've all got it as humans, haven't we? So having to navigate that can be tricky, definitely.
We've covered some really wonderful things. I'm glad, I don't really plan these to, to the nth degree, because I think we've talked about a lot of really useful things actually with our experiences. But just to finish, I'm really interested to know, so you started
Yes.
bilinguasing and it was just you really, and then your sister started helping you. At what point did you think, oh, this needs to be bigger than myself? Like, how did that come
Yeah.
about?
It it came about early on, really. I've sort of realized early on I didn't want to be the only person going out and teaching lessons. And if I was going to grow my business locally, before I even franchised it, I, needed to put on more lessons. And I didn't want to be the person going out and doing it anymore. So I was really fortunate to have a friend of a friend living locally who was also a languages teacher, who was not in a job. She had young kids, but she was looking for something to fit around the kids. And Kath, my teacher, is still with me today. So she's been teaching with me for 10 years. And she has helped me expand locally. So she runs a lot of the classes locally. I've got another teacher now. So I haven't grown my franchise to a massive size, because my goal really was to put in place teachers to cover off the lessons I wanted to deliver, and then I could step back and grow the business through franchising. So yeah, I knew that that's what I wanted to do quite early on, because I created music. I went into a studio and I'm investing. And that's a word I'm very careful to use, the word investing rather than spending when I work with clients. I'm like, are you spending money on this program or are you investing? Because when you invest, you expect the money to come back to you 5-10 fold, right? Eventually. But I invested in this music. So I was like, I want to see a great return on this. And this is a franchisable, talking of building assets in your business, like writing a book or something like that. You've got that asset there. It's done, and you can continue to make revenue from that. So it was really just one way that I could, I'm like, I've got this whole system that works locally. Imagine if I could just package that, sell it to somebody else, and then I receive revenue from them. It just felt like a no-brainer. Like, so I must have got some kind of natural entrepreneurial blood or spirit in me, because that was nobody needed to point me towards that. I just saw other classes doing that. I saw the baby swimming franchises. I saw the baby music franchises. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. It just kind of was obvious, but I know it's not always obvious to people, but that one was. So I just knew, like, there's no way I'm going to do this and be the owner, operator, teacher within my own franchise. I've got to make that decision to step away from my franchise if I want to run a core business that sells franchises. They're different things. That was it. I got a couple of teachers. I dabbled with numerous different marketing assistants who just didn't deliver, and then eventually found a great virtual assistant who's still with us today. And it's gone from there. A team has continued to grow, but that didn't come without its challenges. You definitely, I think when you start investing, again, carefully using the word invest here, in a team, there's a point where your income will contract, and I know you spoke about this with a lady on a recent podcast about her franchise business. When you take on team members, there's a lag time, I think, quite often, not always, quite often, there's a lag time between you seeing a return on investment in that team member where they're bringing in more revenue, they're contributing to the bottom line. In the beginning, it comes out your profits. And often that means coming out of your personal wages when you're the business owner, I think. And I think that is something I have grown to understand and respect and expect, that if I invest in team members, I will, give it a 3 to 6 month period for them to learn and then to measure how they're impacting the bottom line of the business, if that makes sense. In the early days, I didn't fully understand that. And I got frustrated and I used to think everyone else is earning money from the business apart from me. Sometimes I felt like that. But it never lasted for long if I had the right person, and that would turn around quickly. And yeah, having to sort of really have that patience and wisdom that it is a good investment and you're playing a longer game. It's not all about the quick wins. It's about playing a longer game and what future are you trying to build here for yourself and for your family.
Yeah, I love that. One of my stories that I share is, so 2018, we'd not quite got an office for people to go to. Not that anyone actually goes anymore. We have it and we use it occasionally, but everyone is remote. But we held some interviews at a local church and somebody came, and he's still with us now. I remember he said to us in the interview, now this is before we had the year where we basically went from like 120,000 to over $1 million in revenue in 12 months. That was the goal. And he was joining kind of at that time, really. And he looked on Company's House and he said, I mean, I'm not really an expert, but how are you going to afford me? And I said, well, the idea is that you will do the right things to bring in more revenue into the company. And, he talks about that moment now, and it was like 6-7 years ago, that really stuck with him, that it was his job to make more money come into the company so that we could afford to pay him. And I think it's great that he really took that on board. He's an ex-teacher as well. And I feel like I've just given myself a coaching session to just really talk about that again, to bring that up, actually, because when we understand that, it makes sense not only for us as business owners, but also for employees.
Yeah, those are things I'm sort of going to be talking about with my team members. Let's have a look at what's been going, my social media manager, it's be like, okay, it's initially an investment to have him, we're building some digital assets, but ultimately I want to see, that investment is bringing me enough clients to more than justify that cost. So it's no longer a cost. It's like a no-brainer, like it's a bit like, it's not just about employees either. It's about, like, I spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, but sorry, I've used the wrong word. I invest a lot of money in Facebook ads, but it's a complete no-brainer because it brings me such a great return. So I don't see it as an expense. It's just, I suppose you could call it cost of sales. I don't really like that term, but it's more of a, well, I put £10 down, I get £100 back. Why would I not? And those are kind of like, that's what the kind of granular detail as a business owner you need to get to grips with. I'm definitely not brilliant with numbers. It's not my strong point, but I've learned to love a basic-ish spreadsheet. I don't go into massive detail because that would just kill my passion for it. But if I can see that, I put that much money into something and it's bringing me that much money back, then I'm more than happy. I don't see that as a cost anymore. I see that as a no-brainer. Otherwise, I'm leaving money on the table, So, but that's taking time to evolve that mindset and also to feel comfortable talking about money in this way. I don't think I would have been 10 years ago so free and easy talking about wanting more money, how to get more money. it's a kind of language that maybe would have made me feel a bit awkward. And now I celebrate talking about money, and I encourage teachers to, to also see it that way, that it's fun. Money can be fun, and in the hands of good people, which, let's face it, most teachers, complete altruists and givers, overgivers, good people, money in the hands of good people is such a wonderful thing, because we give back. We give back to our communities. We give to charities. We support others. We build each other up, and that can only be a good thing. So yeah, that's my take on money.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you so much. This episode's been ages because we've just been chatting away. So thank you so much
It's
for
been
joining
absolutely brilliant to talk to you. Really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope we get to have many more, because we're very aligned on many things. So
Absolutely. There's so many similarities. I think we're probably going to start our own little networking group right now. So it's been fantastic.
Thank you so much, Claire. And I look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
I really hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I thought it was brilliant to give an insight into what it's like to be an ex-teacher, become an entrepreneur, and then have lots of the mindset struggles as you start to take on team members. It's something that we don't talk about very often, but is in your future, if you're not there yet, in your education business. And so I really hope that you take something really insightful away from today, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Education Business Podcast. To get more information to grow your business, sign up at educationbusinessclub.co.uk.